Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi. Good morning.
Well, we've got at least 6 alive people, which is a good thing. All right, so I was very surprised when I got accepted to JSConf because I don't write JavaScript that much. In fact, I don't write any JavaScript. Sometimes I played with Node.js because I like to look around. But when I got accepted, the reason is because I wrote something. I wrote an experiment because I like breaking stuff. I like playing with technologies. I like seeing what's out there. So what I did is I wrote this experiment that we'll see later on, which is essentially mixing PHP and Node.js together. It's nothing for production. It's just for fun, really. But over the course of the past few months, I've evolved. I've changed a lot. And initially, this talk was supposed to be bitching about Node.js and PHP. But instead, I decided to just call it mixing technologies instead of breaking them. This came from last week. Actually, I was at FunConf, and I saw one of the speakers from this afternoon, which is Chris Williams, which you should go see his talk, by the way. And he reminded me that I can't tell too much because I don't want to give away what he's going to be talking about. But he reminded me that we're more than a language. So hopefully that's what I'm going to be telling you today. I'm going to tell you about my experiences, and I'm going to show you the experiment at the end. All right. So here's a little story about myself. I'm a perpetual learner. That's all I do. All I want to know is more stuff. My brain is like a fractal. The deeper you go in, the more I want to learn stuff. And there's one thing I really hate in terms of it when it comes to engineering, and it's constraints. I really, really hate constraints. To some extent, constraints make sense, but to some other extent, it limits your imagination. It's not only engineering anymore, it's arts. That's what we do. And what we have to really focus on is thinking outside the box. And when I say thinking outside the box, it's not only when you're coding something and when you're developing something. Let me give you an example, all right? There's this guy. I'm going to try to do it as he did it, yeah? So, hey, it's 1889. I am from Naples, Italy. And, oops, sorry there. I am from Naples, Italy. And Queen Margherita is visiting, yeah. So he's like this, and he says, my name is Rafael Esposito. What can I do? What can I do? He says, oh, I can take the bread, yeah, and slap some cheese, and then slap some tomato sauce. And then the guy thought outside the box. That's what he did, and he created one of the most popular dish in the world, which is pizza. The modern pizza with tomato sauce, which is pretty cool. And you know, there are various examples like this. For instance, someone had the idea, I have a trolley and I have a suitcase. What can I do with this? And then he created a suitcase with wheels. And there's another example that's really, really, that I fell in love really when I got here at JSConf. It's the guys downstairs. They thought outside the box. They said, hey, hold on. If I have foosball, I have an Arduino, I have cloud computing, I have HTML5, and I have CouchDB. What can I do with this? And there you go. You end up with a digital foosball table, which is pretty slick in my opinion. Yeah, there they are. There they are. So I missed the Uxebo talk yesterday, but I would have included them in there, but I didn't. Other examples of thinking outside the box was mixing Perl and C about 12 years ago. I created PHP, and then created CPP and V8 and some awesome sauce, and he ended up with Node.js, which was pretty groundbreaking, in my opinion, in our industry. But more importantly, it's intrinsic to us engineers and developers, and it's something that's inherent to our use of technology. Because everything we use is a mix. Everything we use is a mashup of previous technologies, pretty much. And there's one thing that I really can't stand, and I'm a victim, but I'm also one of the perpetrators of this issue, is we all have God complexes. You write JavaScript, you think you can write everything in JavaScript. You write PHP, you want to try to solve every single problem in PHP. You write Erlang, you say, oh, it's so much better. At least there's one. No, actually, I love Erlang as well, but I'm not going to bitch about this whole thing. And there's one important thing to remember. when you mix technologies or when you write your language, you're merely the owner of your own realm. You need to get out there. You need to see what other technologies are doing. Because remember one thing, your users are worth more than technology. They are who is going to pay your bills, or who are going to pay your bills. They are the ones who are affected by all those wars when we fight between JavaScript and PHP, or Ruby and PHP, or Perl and what else? But there's a great man that once said, all war is deception. And I'm a big fan of Sun Tzu. And I think this applies very well to reading Hacker News and seeing, oh, this new technology is so much better than everything else. Because all war is deception. In our world, it doesn't affect us, ourselves, engineers, too much. However, it affects our users a lot. Our users are confused. They come to you, they say, I want a television that's going to play HTML5 and that runs on Ruby and then that can write C. They don't know what they're seeing. They are being deceived by ourselves. We need to get better. We need to get better. We need to sort ourselves out and start interacting together. Because every single technology has a different use case, pretty much, and they can be useful. So I'm going to give you a little example that I actually had that was something that happened to me on the way here from the airport in Dublin. And I'm going to start this by saying polyglottism. I write a lot of languages. I write C, I write PHP, I write Python, I write Erlang. I love languages. So on the way to the airport, I also speak a few languages as well because I love languages and they're easy to learn. So this taxi driver, that's going to be an example of mixing technologies and mixing languages. This taxi driver says, what are you going to do in Berlin? I say, well, I'm going to a technology conference speaking about technologies. He says, oh, really? And then at this point, when the taxi driver said, really, can you tell me more? I knew this was not going to end well. So I said, yeah, it's talking about languages, and he wanted to know more, so I started explaining. It's JavaScript conference, and I'm going to talk about a different language. And he's like, huh. So he stayed stoic there for about 5 minutes driving, and then he says, how many languages do you speak? At this point, I had the perfect example for my talk today, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't just tell him, no, look, it's not linguistics, it's actual engineering. And this example came to me, and I said, when I say use the good technology for you, it's the same thing in languages. I don't speak German, but there's a German word I really like, which is Schadenfreude. And when that taxi was talking about technology mixed with linguistics, but he was very confused, I couldn't help myself but think about this word, because it's exactly what it was. I enjoyed this, because Schadenfreude is basically the pleasure derived from the misfortune of others. And I could see his bad luck trying to get into technology and trying to understand more. It was interesting, but in this particular use case, I couldn't use that word with him. I couldn't explain this to him, because we're not robots. When we use technology, we have to use what makes sense in what use case makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is a rapid rant. Hopefully, I'm going to try I'll make this work in 30 minutes, so it might be really hard. So let's talk about Node.js for a little bit. Who uses Node.js here? Wow. Who uses Python? PHP? Yeah, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Yeah, I know. Look. All right. Node.js is trying to be the next PHP. Am I wrong saying that? Isn't that what Ryan said a few times through emails and through the mailing lists? Well, start fucking relaxing, all right? Because PHP is trying to be the next PHP. We don't even know where we are yet. Node.js is probably the most interesting project I've seen in years because it redefined the status quo. It completely thought outside the box and it said, well, it got popular, obviously, but it said, I want to do something. I want to solve a new use case. I want to try something new. And I don't think Node.js has to be the next PHP or the next anything else. I mean, why? Why would you want to do this? You have a great, vibrant community. You have a great package manager. You have great people. You have great core developers and companies to back you up. Whereas, on the other hand, ourselves, PHP, myself, I'm a time-to-time core contributor to PHP. I don't even have time anymore to argue because PHP is in a different league than Node.js. I'm not saying it's a better league. I'm just saying it's a different league. It's different issues. There's no other project out there, apart maybe from Java, but Java is very different, There's no other project apart from PHP that has the same issues, that the same growth, that has the same use on the web. And you know, when I see people trying to be the next PHP, I think that's wrong. PHP is there, it's doing its thing. Node.js, it's doing its other thing, and it's fucking sweet, and it works. So there's this book that's pretty much changed my life, I think, or my way of thinking about businesses and products. And it's called The Innovator's Dilemma. To do like a too long didn't read resume of this, it basically means, for me, is the incumbent, PHP, the one that was the leader in the web. We pretty much sat on our holes for a few years because we were at the top of this. We were used by everyone. Whereas when Node.js came, it forced us to redefine ourselves, redefine our processes, see how other technologies are doing things, see how new platforms are growing. And this is great. PHP has been stuck in a loop for many years. Then it started growing again once we saw how Node.js was bringing new things. But now what's happening? Node.js people are trying to make PHP, and PHP is trying to adopt features of Node.js. It's a bit of a mix-up that I don't agree with, but either way, I think it's very interesting to see how the two worlds can collide together. Anyways, I'm rambling now. How much time do I have left? 15 minutes, just about, yeah? 15? All right, so what I'm going to present to you now is an experiment that I did. I don't even know how to define it. I'm an engineer. I like when things are pure, but I also like learning new things, and I like to redefine what I'm doing. I like to improve myself. And open source is my life, so obviously when something comes out, I need to try it. However, I'm very, very lazy, and I have a lot of work to do, and I don't have time to start rewriting all my code to port it to a new language or port my old thing to a new platform or to something crazy. I mean, I love HTML5, I love PHP, I love JavaScript, I love WebSockets, I love Python, I love Erlang, for fuck's sake. I love technology. And as I said, I had a lot of code. I wrote a lot of code in my life in at least 15 languages. And I still use whatever language works. But one night, it was a Friday night, and I was pretty drunk, sitting in my office, working and sipping on some wine, when I had this idea. What if I could run PHP from Node.js? Because the funny thing is, PHP has been very boring for many years, but since the arrival of PHP 5.3, we have some pretty cool things that I'm going to show you, even though they're completely overkill for the code examples I'm going to show you. We have namespaces. We have closures. More importantly, we have a much better fast CGI processor now called FPM. And I figured, hold on, Node.js could replace my Nginx, and I could use WebSockets directly from this. So I started hacking away, and that's what happened. It turns out that it worked. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to show you off what this experiment did. Hopefully there's Wi-Fi. Hold on. Do you see a terminal there? All right, so I'm going to start by showing you a very simple. Yeah, don't say anything, all right? I know I shouldn't sudo, but. All right, so if people want to go to this address, there, I'm going to get someone to chat with me. Sorry, camera, I have to step out of the light. Let's get someone to chat with me. All right. There. Do you want to chat with me? Do you all want to go in there? If you have a computer, feel free. Oh, hold on. This one's going to be very short, don't worry, because it's kind of boring. So let's say speaker, that's me. Oh, hi. So, stupid thing. Hold on. Oh, I got an alert. Thank you, XSS people. All right, so that's a very boring example of Node.js and WebSockets. I think we all heard everything that's there to be said about Node.js. Yeah, I know, that's why I said thank you, XSS people. Very nice. Hold on, that's not sockets in PHP yet. So the thing is, I don't want to give a talk about Node.js because everyone knows everything about Node.js already. So let me just open the terminal here. What we're going to do is just show you the server is very simple. Is that too small, too big in the back?
It's okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this very simply. I just include socket.io because I said I'm very lazy. I'm not going to write my own implementation of WebSockets, obviously. So I use socket.io, and then the usual. You set I use Express as well because it manages my routes and all this stuff. And then that's the app. The app receives a connection. It receives nicknames, and then it disconnects. It's very basic. It's the default example from socket.io. So I figured, what if you have a business? You need some real-time web chat or some real-time interaction, but you also have a lot of business logic developed to compute your financials or any imaginable kind of piece of code that would run on PHP that everyone already has somewhere. Post to a vanilla bulletin board something. Well, what we're going to do now, All right, sorry. Anyway, back to the PHP. Initially, the example I wanted to do was a very cool. Anyone knows Hummingbird? Which is like live analytics of your website and traffic, and it's super slick. And I wanted to mix this up with, because I'm a bad citizen, and for the example here, I wanted to sniff the network. So what I wanted to do is send everyone to a network, to the Hummingbird page, find their address, compute that through my PHP script via Node.js, and get the information back and display something else. But it was kind of boring, and it was overcomplicated. And I think one of the main themes that I remember, or that I can think of when I think about JSConf is pirates. We all love pirates. So I decided to write something funnier. So for now, I'm going to show you the code first. Let me show you the server. That's the actual interesting bit. All right, we start a server, remove this, yada yada. That's the main route that displays the index just like the other one. But now that's where the funny bit comes in. You have a call that you process through Node.js, through Express. It identifies the route. And what it does by serve PHP, it doesn't do a request through Apache or through Nginx. What it does is, I wrote this thing called Node.php, which allows you to interact with FastCGI directly through Node. It's all evented, it's all very fun. So that's what you do. You just have a route, and what we're going to do is show you how that actually works. So let's just switch back to our, There you go. All right, let's start that server. Of course. What?
First time, kill the rat.
Oh, I didn't kill it, did I? All right. Oh, sorry, there you go. All right, if you guys want to refresh, use the iPad to refresh or use your computers to refresh. Go to the same address. Oh, a penis connected. This is a very kinky night. So, all right, start saying, normal chat room conversation. Say, how are you, and how's it going, and yada, yada, yada. Bigger penis. Oh my God, what the fuck? All right, here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to click on this here. Now, if people could start chatting with me. Yeah, sorry, that's the default. So you say, hey, say how are you, or where's the party tonight? I don't know if that's going to work. See, what's actually happening here is, oh, someone clever, someone very clever. See, what it does is it grabs the string you're sending. When it receives it, it translates it using a translator. It translates it to pirate talk. Through PHP, PHP feeds that to a cache, and then just displays whatever data is returned from it. Where is that party tonight? Yeah, PHP.js Frankenstein is a pretty goddamn good way to explain it. All right, sorry, I'm not mirroring displays. All right, so let's see here. It's a mix of Node.js, but you can also see the incoming request for PHP. So I actually only started learning Express last night because I said I don't write JavaScript. I don't write those crazy stuff. And the first version of Node.php was only a server. You would basically run from your directory, and it would find the index.php, and it would run. But last night I decided, if I could use Express, that would be interesting, because I could manage my route and just send that directly through fastCGI. So right now what it does is it mixes the PHP outputs. It's all event-driven and very fancy. And for those of you that don't actually know, PHP actually has some of the event-driven methods. For instance, you can write all your sessions asynchronously using the new memcached extension. You can write the files online asynchronously using the event loop. There's even libevent that I'm not going to talk about because it's absolutely ugly. Not ugly, ugly. So let me just show you a little bit of code because I like to show off what we have now in PHP. So this is absolute overkill. Don't worry about this. That's just the requirement. See, we have namespaces. That's right. That's right. Huh? And check this out. We have lambdas as well. That's right. You can associate functions to variables. This is fucking sweet. So what we do is we essentially retrieve from the cache. If the word that you're passing is in the cache, it finds it. Otherwise, it will ping some URL that's up there, post like pirate.com, which is kind of self-explaining, self-explanatory. And yeah, that's very it's very basic. It's not complex, but you can run your PHP script through your Node.js, which means you might have, like I said, you might have some real-time chat analytics that you want, but at the same time, when someone comes, you have some business logic behind. You send the IP, process the financials, how much they owe you, and all this stuff. You can all do this, and that's what I find beautiful about technology is you can start interacting together like this. I'm not saying this is something that should go in production. Far from it. But it shows you that Node.js that was created pretty much as its own language can interact correctly with other languages. You could run Python scripts from this. You can run Ruby, because I think there's a Ruby-ish Node.js thing that interacts. And that's very sweet. Let me just show you another little piece of code. See? Namespace. Huh? How sick is that? So, hold on. Where am I? Yeah, let's do this. Hold on. So, in conclusion, I'm not saying use PHP. I'm not saying use Python. I'm not saying use Node.js. I'm saying think and stop fighting. Stop fighting between languages. Because, as I said, our users are worth way more than our technology. And it saddens me every time I see posts on Hacker News or on TechCrunch, or, well, TechCrunch doesn't really count as a tech blog, but on Hacker News that bitches about other languages. I think it's very important for us as a community to start talking together. That's something I've been doing, or trying to get going for a few years now. It's trying to talk with other languages, trying to see what they're doing, trying to see how we can interact, how to make a better interaction for our businesses and our money and our lives. Because, you know, there's not enough time in life to fight all the time. So hopefully you weren't expecting some kind of in-depth talk about Node.php, because there's not much to be said, really. It interacts with fastCGI through Node.php. It's all evented, and it's all very nice. Everyone's very happy. So think, next time you start bitching about another language, or you start bitching about some technology, think about it. Think, could I use it? How could I use it? Do I have to rewrite my script? Do I have to hire someone else to redo the whole thing? Or is that the right use case for me? NoSQL is a great example of this. NoSQL has so many different, NoSQL, I hate the term, just saying it gives me shivers. There's so many NoSQL database, and they all have a different use case. So don't say, oh, React is much better than CouchDB for everything, because that's not true. For some cases, it's going to be better. Think, think, think. Think outside the box, think as well. If there's one thing you have to get back, or bring back from this talk, is you have to consider other possibilities. Don't be self-restrained. Don't impose constraints on yourselves. Impose constraints when you're developing, but not when you're thinking. It's not only engineering, it's arts. Remember that. So I'm going to take any questions or something. I think I have 5-6 minutes left, according to my timer. So if anyone has any questions. No questions? Yes. No. Next.
You actively maintain those PHP node thing, or does it end with the experiments and now the code is there and no issues with it?
So the question is Node.php actively maintained? I don't use it for work. I'm one of the co-founders of a PHP platform called Orchestra. And obviously, we don't use this for production because it's a test. But what I did is, my wife and I are very competitive, to say the least. And we like playing games online against one another. And it's really hard to do this on Miniclip and such. So I wrote this battleship game that we can interact together. But I have some old code for a card game that I'm doing now in PHP that I wanted to use through Node. So as I said, I'm a perpetual learner. So yes, it's still maintained. I use this pretty much once a week. And even the reason why I actually started Node.php is because prior to PHP 5.4, PHP didn't have this very nice built-in web server. So you had to install Apache, create a new VOS, create a new hostname entry. Whereas now I could just type node server PHP, boom, and start right from there and start developing. So I don't only use this for games or fun. I also use this for development on my own. So yeah, there's a bug right now since last night, because I ported half of it to express.js, and the other one isn't ported. But yeah, it's on GitHub if you want to go. I think if you go to the lanyard page, I added the slides and the link to the GitHub code. You can see all the examples are there, and you should see Node.php from there as well. Any other question? Go on.
I was pretty much the same.
All right. So how much time left?
3 minutes.
Ah, good stuff. So I like to talk to people usually, and that's something I didn't do today because I only had 30 minutes, so I tried to cut it very short. I'd like to know about your experiences. Who uses more than one technology on a daily basis? What kind of technology mix do you like? Say, Joe.
Obviously JavaScript, so Python, PHP when it's necessary or useful.
See, that's the same thing. Joe says he uses JavaScript, Python, PHP, and as I said, we have a PHP platform called Orchestra, yeah? And the funny thing is, pretty much everything that's in the backend, not the API, but every job, everything that interacts with Amazon, is all written in Python because it makes more sense. There's this great library in Python called Boto, and Boto is well maintained and it's super slick. Sometimes it breaks, but it works most of the time. And see, I think Joe just sparkled this good idea in me or extended the idea and my view on mixing technologies. Sometimes you have to. It makes more sense from an economics perspective and from just technology. It's fun to learn new things. Anyone here doesn't like to learn new things? Like people walking in kind of thing? Sure, do you want a chair? No, anyways, thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions or want to bitch about this,